Hey, everybody, welcome to the Enhance Your World show. I am your co host, Chris Alba, and Larkin is going to be joining us here shortly. But really excited to be back. I had taken a little retreat out to Bali for 7 day, 11 days or something like that. And what an amazing experience that was. And, uh, you know, it's been said many, many, many times throughout my life, at least, that if you want to expand your awareness, you have to go beyond what you've known. And one of the easiest ways to do that is to travel um, to places beyond your norm. And I was talking to a friend this morning about some of these ideas. And, I said the beauty about going overseas or going to a different country about the way they were, how they live and their culture and their traditions and things like that is it allows us, especially us Americans, to move past our entitlements, the things that we've taken for granted in various different forms, but then also allows us to expand on the awarenesses of our blessings, the things that are working for us. If I was to just travel to Florida, for example, my surrounding, my environment might be a little bit different. However, the people that I'm interacting with while I'm there are still Americans. You know, they're not much different. But when we travel to other countries and different parts of the world, we become cultured, right? And so today's show, we're going to talk about enjoy the one you're with. And, what is enjoyment? It's actually being in joy, no matter the emotional state. And it's hard, of course, when we're triggered and we're in our reaction to see the joy that is our experience. But with the art of gratitude, we can see beyond those limited aspects of ourselves and the people that we surround ourselves with, to allow the joy to permeate from what was presently is, because we see it in our mind, we feel it in our hearts and our body, which is our 3, 4, and 5D realities, right? And then or levels of consciousness, if you will. And that allows us to always becoming greater than what we've experienced, because our future is only a replication of our past until we learn to accept, acknowledge, accept, allow what was, and to be transmuted into the unconditional love of our presence. And what is unconditional love? It's beyond conditions. It's beyond expectations. It's a beyond our rational thinking, our logical thinking, because that is coming from 95% of the time, as we talk about, the subconscious mind. Creative consciousness, there's unlimited possibilities. So the possibilities that you want to create, for example, of high vibrational happiness, of bliss, of joy, of abundance, of financial wealth, security, those types of things, only manifests into our physical form when we're no longer attached to what it is we believe that those states are. We realize, going beyond the labels of our identities, that allows us to free up our awareness so we can be creatively present to the realities, the environments of now. And as we heal, as we process our emotions, as we come into the conscious awareness of the unknown, of the subconscious, the light at the end of the tunnel ends up being ourselves. And what's the interconnectedness of this? The challenge with this is my opinion, but with religions is how it's applied. And if one religion worked for everybody, there wouldn't be a need for the variety of ways that we get to practice each and every day of our spirituality, which is our present beingness of who we are. Not our identity, not the roles that we play, not the thoughts that we think, not the feelings that we feel. All of it. There's no separation. And that's really hard for a lot of us to grasp, especially when we're in a story of us versus them. This happened to me. I was hurt. I wasn't treated with love and respect and kindness. I was this, I was that, I was abandoned, I was betrayed. Those may be part of the story, but that is not the story of you. That was a story of an experience that you moved through. And when we're attached to those stories, those identities, those labels, we will continue to experience things in our lives to show us that we are more than that. Whether we accept responsibility and move past that and learn mastery of our energies of mind, heart, and physical beingness, right? Showing up each and every day in the ways that we want to show up as ourselves. Again, not by the roles that we play. Those are just automatic doings. And when we reflect that true nature of our lovingness, of the universal consciousness, we realize that the only thing that's limited us from experiencing the life that we want to experience is our expectations and beliefs of who we think we are and who others are, which is all mind. So learning to be in joy with the one that you're with, right, is always being able to be in your own skin without escaping it. And when you can do that on a consistent basis without necessarily other people or other things, other practices, other ways to escape the reality of presence, that's the belief and the thoughts and the feelings that take us away from this moment. When we can do that proficiently, then we expand that through our relationships with other people. And then when we can maintain our relationships without losing ourselves, which means we're walking our authentic path, good, bad, indifferent, or judgments, we will see the lightness of our being, the truth, where we are helpful and where we are hurtful. And we can use this discernment for the past. It's always the past. Unless we're being creative, which is a planning state, right? It's setting an intention. It's setting a goal. Now, if we're attached to that outcome and it's not coming in the ways that we're expecting it, the ways we believe that we feel like it should, we will feel separation. Joe Dispenza talks about in his book, I think it's called Overcoming Yourself or something like that, that the subconscious is basically our body. And so what we've been programmed through our neuroconnections, through the experiences of this life and past lives and then ancestral lives, because all the energy is interconnected, right? It's all one consciousness. We just see it from this reality of self. Once we realize that, we can shift our thoughts, our feelings, and our behaviors. Sometimes it takes us getting into an argument, sometimes losing control over our emotions, to force us to look at ourselves and say, this is just where I'm at right now. I'm in an emotional state. And that emotional state isn't right, wrong, or indifferent, but being aware of the frequency of whether it's hurtful or helpful to self, to others, to the collective planet. That allows us to master our energies and allows us to come into communion with ourselves and each other in a harmonious way, no matter what, because we all want the same universal things in life. And that's to love, to be loved, to matter, to make a difference. And how we do that each and every day is our... Ooh, something's exciting. Larkin just popped down with a really wonderful...
Yeah, you know why?
What?
You know why I'm excited? Because after 3 weeks of tormenting me with not blocking my lives, I look up to see what you have us listed on, and you have all my Facebook pages up there.
Uh-huh.
But I can't go live, and they all have a green check mark. So I checked my phone to see if I was really live, and we
are. Wonderful.
Well, I'm excited because it has been 3 times the amount of extra work for me. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. Every day I've been checking. I've sent Facebook at least 50 requests for help, and they have not even acknowledged me. And I think it was an accident because I have no restrictions on my account.
Right.
So I never got a notification. So yeah, I'm excited. Sorry.
Sweet.
Go on.
No. It was all good. I saw your face and I was like, oh, look, there's enjoyment.
Intuitively, I felt like it was going to be today or tomorrow because it was exactly 3 weeks as of tomorrow.
Okay.
So I knew there was probably a 3 or 4 week punishment. And I think it was just AI. I think AI removed one of my videos, and I think it messed up then, and it restricted all my accounts, even though it was one of my own videos on my own pages. That's the only thing I ever get in trouble for.
You must have said something that it didn't like.
I just posted my website. I think it didn't like my website on my animal communication page because it didn't think it was the same, but it's totally connected. Okay. This is why I don't like AI. But anyway, go on.
Well, I mean, AI is just an expression of ourselves, right? Like
absolutely an expression.
Go ahead.
I was just gonna say an expression we can't yet control, like everything else we get ourselves into.
Sure. Well, I mean, control is a false thing anyway, I believe. But you know.
Yeah, but you know what I mean.
Yeah.
We get ahead of ourselves, and we do this all the time.
Yeah. It's like trying to control the surf, right, or the waves. Know, it's beyond our control, but it is in our level of capability to learn how to do it. We were just out in Bali, and
but is it really? Okay, go ahead.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and we did all the things that we wanted to do, and the last day that we were there, we were setting it up for a beach day, and we were expecting to go swimming and doing all these different activities, and we got to do a lot of them, but swimming we really couldn't do because the surf was really strong that day, so they recommended that no swimmers were out there. There were just surfers. Now we got in the water and we got to do our thing a little bit, but we didn't play and frolic in the water. At least I didn't, the way that I was expecting to on Saturday, because of the conditions that were beyond my control at that time, at that beach, but I still got to have a wonderful experience. I still got to enjoy my time, and had all these first time experiences for myself. And there was so much healing that was done on throughout the week that we were there. And I got to work with different healers that were there. I got to learn Balinese massage while I was out there. We got to enjoy time in nature and time at some temples, and we got to go to coffee plantation and learn about how they make coffee, and all the various different things. So it was an absolutely, yeah, there you are. And we got to have some of that really fancy Lucar, I think is what it's called, coffee. And I got to bring some of that home, which is apparently the most expensive coffee in the world, because these, I think they're marsupials, eat it and then they poop it out. and they, there's a process of cleaning and, all the various things.
Talk about processed.
Yeah. It's like naturally processed. I mean, you can't process it any more natural over a fire and, all that stuff. I mean, it is like, I was kind of giggling when we went, because like they allowed us to do that. Right. So I'm roasting the beans on the fire, and then over on the side, like I have a hand coffee grinder, because I like the fresh ground coffee.
I'm just grinding mine right now. Yeah, fresh ground coffee is the best.
And so I had a hand grinder for a long time, because I wanted to make it a spiritual practice. I didn't want to just put a bunch of beans in a electric grinder, just hit the button and just kind of like an automatic thing. I wanted to be fully present while I was making my coffee. And when you're hand grinding it, you're definitely present to doing that. So anyway, I have a hand grinder, and they actually use like a mortar and pestle, but it's a big one. So the pestle, that they use to smash the coffee beans is like probably 4.5, 5 feet long, and 6 inches in diameter. It's a big log, essentially, and that's what they use in this commercial factory to make the coffee. I mean, they still do it this way. This is part of their spiritual practice. This is part of what makes their coffee their coffee. And it was just wonderful experience. And they had these beautiful teas and beautiful coffees, and I really was blessed to be there and be able to purchase some of that stuff, so I could take it home and share it with my friends and family. Not that I can share the experience, but I can share the end result of it, which is pretty beautiful. But that's the point that I'm trying to get at, to be in joy with whatever's going on. I mean, yesterday, as we were at the hotel room getting ready for our flight, these St. Jude commercials kept coming on, and I would just keep breaking down crying, and I mean, they were heart-wrenching, to think about all these parents and these kids that are going through these health struggles at such a young age. And of course, as parents, we always want our kids to be healthy, and oh my God, what would happen if not? And all that. And I wasn't having any of those thoughts. I was just feeling the emotion. And my friend that went with me, Rhonda, she kind of looked over at me and she's like, "You okay?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I'm really touched by these commercials today. Like every time they come on, I'm having an emotional release." And for me, that was a beautiful healing experience. It was a portal to a healing. And, most people, what they would want to do is shut off that emotion, maybe try to think about something else, or maybe even change the channel. But the fact that I knew that I needed to have that to be able to sit in that thing helped cleanse me and help bring me back to who it was that I truly am and want to be. And I can continue to do that. I can continue to be caring. I can continue, to do those things, because that's what I have control over. I can influence the outer experiences by sharing awarenesses with others about the foods and the things, the environmental factors and those types of things that help create this ease, mentally and emotionally as well. The things that cause this ease create physical disease, because it's a reflection. And when we can learn from that, we can put ourselves and our energy back into ease. That's part of self-mastery. When you can go through, they train the military and police, to go through these stressful experiences. It's so they don't lose their stuff in the middle of that thing. Now they're going to have to process that stuff later because, because a lot of it's not in harmony. But like the experience that I shared about, when I was a kid and stole my parents' car and got beat up by the cops, and the conversations that I had with the cops after I got out of the hospital, not only did that experience change my life, it changed their lives. And that's part of our purpose here on Earth, is we are the cause to the effect that we want to see. I was in Bali, and they call it the island of the gods. And, the driver was driving, and, the population there is mostly Hindu. And, so they believe in karma. They believe in, all these things, and they worship the trees. And I mean, it's beautiful. You watch these trees grow right out of their, their bamboo things and whatever, because they're not going to cut the trees. They fold up the branches to make these weird, cool looking baskets, so they don't cut the tree limbs. It's absolutely beautiful how
I love that.
how they care for certain things. And then I'm like, why is there so much freaking trash around, in the waterways and all that? I'm like, do you guys not have good sanitation? Is it a system problem, whatever? And the driver laughed. He goes, no, Balinese people are freaking lazy. They just eat their food and they throw it on the ground, the container, like cigarette butts. I mean, like, it felt like I was a teenager again, because everywhere you went, you could smoke. Go in a restaurant, you could smoke. Hotel room, you could smoke. I mean, you could smoke anywhere you wanted. But everywhere you looked, there were cigarette butts. So I'm like, is this all tourist, or is this, or is this the Balinese people as well? And they were like, no, that's not a priority to them. And I was like, it's interesting that you guys believe in karma. And they're like, yep. And reincarnation, yep. But yet you don't see an issue with trashing the planet that you're going to be reincarnated on.
But they don't even they don't even harm the trees that are growing through their home.
Right. Right. So it's like
the mind.
In one aspect, like their temples are super sacred, and all this man-made stuff and all these things are, and they go around in the very morning, they make these little prayer baskets, for blessings, and there's all the flowers that have fallen off the tree the night before. There's an offering of tobacco and incense, and sometimes money and candy and all, and they're everywhere. They're all over the sidewalk. They're on the beaches. It's kind of, as a people watcher, it was really cool to see that committed, Yeah. And then at the same time, I could see the duality of it. And it's like, but, you just throw your cigarette butts on the ground, and you just throw your, we went to this water temple to do a water blessing, Larkin. And I kid you not, there was like 5 canisters, food trays on top of the garbage can. So then I took all the containers off the garbage can, and I lifted the lid thinking that, well, maybe the can's full. Nope. Not full. It had a couple things in it. That was it. They didn't even stop to just lift the lid to put the trash on it. They just put the trash on top of it. But outside of that, the place was spotless. It was unbelievable. I mean, people, even in, the airports and all that, spotless. I mean, we had a cigarette, had some smokes in one of our layovers, and they have smoking lounges in this airport. And they literally each had an attendant in the smoking room. So once you put, asked your cigarette, out, and you put your cigarette out, they would come over and they would empty it and dust off all the ashes in the ashtray. So everything was spotless. It blew my mind away. And I mean, just there's so many different things that were challenging, again, coming out of the water temple, we're all blissed out and zened out from doing all these prayers and blessings and all this stuff. We were all good. Hi, Katie. And then, as you're trying to leave, you're going through this little micro village. It's kind of like in our, North America, I could consider it like a swap meet or a flea market, where they all sold, spiritual, things and, masks and statues and incense and, snacks and, whatever. Each little booth was different, but they all bought from the same vendor. So it was really challenging because some people were really super aggressive because they probably needed to eat. And then there was other people that were a little more laid back. But then also it gave the consumer ability to negotiate, because you're like, what's the price on this? And they're like, 200,000 rupees, and that's like $12, and you'd be like, no, I'll give you 150, or I'll give you one, and you'll walk out, and their income is so low that they would take it. Because they just needed, I mean, to give somebody 100,000 rupees there was like they didn't have to work for the rest of the day. Like, that was a big deal. And to us, it's like $6, and it was wild, of the things that we were able to commercially buy over there for like pennies on the dollar, and the meals that we had, and all that kind of stuff. I mean, how can it's hard to live here in America thinking that $400 let you eat 3 beautiful meals a day, travel to wherever you wanted to go with a private driver, and still have I bought some things, so I had to buy a suitcase and just to put the stuff in, and spent $600. Like, you couldn't go to Florida from Cincinnati.
No, you couldn't even just make the trip there.
No, I mean, you couldn't. I was telling a friend, because she was like,
you couldn't even drive there for $600. I mean,
right. She was wondering how much it cost to travel, right? And I was like, it was a gift to me. So I didn't pay for it. I was gifted this trip, and how beautiful is that? And I'm very grateful for the opportunity to have gone, and what a beautiful gift that was granted. And but I said, I think it was around $1,500, because we were talking some, like the cost, of expanding your consciousness, right? And so the flight there was like $1,500. I said, but you figure we spent less than $4,000 for 2 weeks.
Wow.
It would be hard to do that here in America and go anywhere really outside of your immediate environment for that. Cabins at the Red River Gorge are $200, $300, $400.
Oh, absolutely. Even just even just the plane fare you're talking about is so cheap. I mean, when I was living in Scotland 20 years ago, some of our plane tickets were over $3,000.
Right.
And sometimes we were getting them one way because I was spending months over there at a time, but that was 20 years ago.
Right.
So, that's definitely gone up a lot.
And I mean, and the reality of it is that you're going to have an experience that you can't get out of a book.
Right. There's nothing like experience.
And I mean, even reading a book is a direct experience. However, however, being able to, learn from all these different people and, all this different stuff. I mean, it's just absolutely amazing. And it helps remind us, especially going to these kind of places, because honestly, like we were talking, I mean, our driver has a 2-bedroom, 1-bath house with a car with a garage. And we asked him what, his monthly rent was, and he couldn't figure it out. And he said, "Oh, it's like $2,500 American per year." What? Like, are you, like, oh my goodness, and no wonder they can be so laid back as long as they're doing something each day, and how grateful they were for us to be there, because we helped provide them with the lifestyle that they need, that they have. And I think we've lost that over here in America. Like everywhere we went, with our layovers, everybody was so friendly and beautiful, and everything was, I mean, pretty well maintained and kept, and then as soon as we get to JFK, it was like a complete energetic shift. Everything was dirty, everything was chaotic, people were rude and angry and entitled.
They're rude, they're very controlling, they shove you along, they don't even let you stay with the people that you're with.
Yeah. I mean, it was just amazing, the difference. And I'm so grateful that I got to experience it. I'm sharing it, hoping to inspire others to do the same. Because that, I've never really truly taken a vacation. And even now, I wouldn't even call that a vacation. I would have called that a pilgrimage, because we were going there with certain intentions to sit with healers, to do purification rituals, those kind of things, learn Balinese massage, as I mentioned. So we were going there to expand our skill sets and our awareness. But I've wanted my whole life to build a life that I didn't have to escape from.
Right.
And so a lot of times I put stuff in my day that necessarily might not have been the best for me, but it was something that I enjoyed in the moment. So I allowed it to be there.
And see, and I think that really is the best for us. I think, the thing people have the hardest time doing, and if you can get them on a broadcast like this for an hour, or even just 15 minutes, because most people won't even stay. I mean, most people, I'm throwing this in there, but part of the problem, especially with us in the Western world, is we have no attention span.
Right.
We bounce around. I mean, you'll even see on all of these lives, we've had 0 people, then 4 people, then 2 people, then 1 person, now 3 people. Some of that obviously is just the technology, people bouncing on and off. And I'm not criticizing that. If you guys are on for 10 seconds, thank you for being here. Mm-hmm. But it does make up to a point that one of the things that we are way out of, we are really living in a warped reality, because the natural world is a manifestation of consciousness. Mm-hmm. And we have separated ourselves from that so much. Even this wonderful technology, like the AI we were talking about, the computer. Mm-hmm. Am I grateful for it? Absolutely. I'm so grateful for it. But your consciousness level has to be at a certain point before you can really use these advanced technologies and not have them harm you. Mm-hmm. And what we're really experiencing right now in the world is really an expression of our collective human consciousness has reached a certain point that is really revealing where we are collectively as human consciousness. Mm-hmm. Individually, that can vary. This is sort of like having the sum of the collective. And for each and every one of you that become more conscious, that wake up, which is why I have the Awakening Your Intuition program. It's why I do mindset work. It's why Chris does his healing work and his coaching. I mean, this is why we do it. For each of us that awakens to whatever level we are, our next level of consciousness here in this world, we're opening the gateways for human consciousness. Mm-hmm. For this physical manifested world. There really is no physical world, but for this illusionary physical manifested world to evolve, right, to have less pain and suffering. Eventually, this goal cosmically is to have a heaven on earth, mm-hmm. a manifested reality where we souls can come and experience the physical contrast that we do not experience on the other side in this world. But in order to create that, more of us have to come through and be conscious while having a mind in physical form, right? And that's really what we're talking about. So I want to I know I haven't said much yesterday, and now I'm, but I want to mention a couple things. I want to really validate what Chris is saying. And Chris, as I've gotten to know you over the years, I've watched your conscious journey. And initially I saw your posts and things, and I was in your group, and I was like, wow, like, this guy is really, I mean, we're all on a spiritual journey, but, I could see where you were going with this, and the authenticity of the conscious awakening, the authenticity of that struggle to get through the human aspects to get to that true self, and that true self shining through. And so, and each year I know you, I see that shine brighter and brighter. So I see that progress happening, and it gives me chills. It's really beautiful. And there's just so many things. You always blow my mind with the things you share on here. And a lot of times, I'll just do it blatantly in my expression, but you do it in this beautiful alliteration. And in sharing, for example, how the Bali people live, what they have in so many ways is what Westerners are seeking and dying for.
Yep.
So when we see things on TV where they're like, save the starving children or this and that, I know people personally that have gone on Christian missionary work, and they come back and they're just like, we don't understand why these people are so happy. They don't have schools. They don't have churches. They don't have water. They're joyful. Well, that's why. What they don't have is a societal brainwashing. What they don't have is a fake world.
Right.
I love society. Don't get me wrong, but it takes us away from those things that we see in what we call primitive people or less developed people. We may refer to Native Americans that way, or different cultures around the world, but they are still, sometimes the more things you have handed to you that make your life more busy, more cluttered, there's more decisions. Hi, Paul. Welcome. Thanks for joining us. That's okay. I was late too.
Me too.
So, these things are important. And it's very difficult to do what we do with our coaching clients, and to take people that already have more than what they want and need, who guess what they want? Guess what every coaching client or person that comes to me is after? They want something. They all want something. Now, I'm not putting this down, but we are in a culture of want, need, want, I gotta have it. People are literally committing suicide because they are depressed, because they do not have what they want.
Right.
They do not think their life is good enough. They are not worthy enough because they don't have 3 multi-million-dollar houses, 8 cars. They don't have 5 vacation homes. They're not working 3 hours a day to make $1 million. This is what we've reduced life to. And Chris's journey, if you're just popping on, go back and listen from the beginning. There's several components I want to point out in what Chris has shared today. Number one, you didn't even describe your journey as a vacation, but yet it was better than most people's vacations. Mm-hmm. But you went with purpose. Mm-hmm. You went with a purpose of learning, growing, healing, facing aspects even of yourself that maybe were painful, and you recognized those, you know, and what you needed. So you came back with something, the ability to know yourself better and to serve greater. There's nothing more fulfilling than that.
Right.
And what I see is, again, guys, I'm making a contrast between our human fake man-made reality and what's really real outside of that. I mean, if you walk out of your house and you drive a little ways out into the country, or you set up a camp in a field somewhere, and you're no longer 5 minutes from a UDF or a Kroger store or whatever grocery or gas station you have, and you are, you know, you're out in the middle with the elements where, oh my gosh, there's insects and bats and bears and, you know, mosquitoes and the weather elements. You feel way out of place, but here's a wake-up call. That's the real physical world. Now, not to say that your society isn't, but it only takes a second for an earthquake, a hurricane, a tornado, something to happen, a freeze, the electric to go out. I mean, have any of you been in a situation where the electricity goes out for more than 24 hours? The people, your neighbors, the people you know, the people at the grocery store, everything changes. Have you been in a situation where everyone panics? And most of the time, it's not really even anything to really panic about. We panic because our norm has been shifted. And so I just want to I'm just kind of overall summarizing, because there's so many long things you've shared on here, Chris, and I want to kind of put this in a ball of simplicity for everyone.
Thank you.
Like, you know, think about it. I mean, there's a reason why Chris was talking about in Bali, their main religion and belief system is Hindu. Well, Hinduism or Buddhism comes from Hinduism, only Buddhism is a way of life. It is not a religion. However, the Buddha was raised Hindu. And the whole how many gods thing, none of that matters. None of that matters. But what does matter is looking at the principles in which your personal brain was programmed and your mind has come to create the belief systems that it has. If, you know, and we can say whatever we want, we can say it's hereditary, we can say it's because we had PTSD, whatever we want to say about why we have our depression and anxiety, we can lay that on our story. But it's just a part of your mind story. The truth is each and every person has the opportunity. I see your comment, Katie. Hold on a second. Each and every person has the opportunity to change their story and give that story new meaning at any point in time. And what I see with Chris that I was describing is it's a conscious choice of this journey. The greatest thing you guys can have is a level of self-awareness. That's not, you guys may not, you may see and believe that, you may not. And if you don't, it's because everyone who loved you, everything in society tells us what is of value is material and physical. If you're going to survive, it's got to be this way. You got to do that. You got to do this. You got to do that. From a society point, I see that. There are elements of that if you're going to not be on the street are very irrelevant. But when we make that so imbalanced that we're literally killing ourselves and we're depressed and we can't leave our house and we can't get a job and we have addictions because we're not in the relationship we want, because we don't have the job we want, because we don't have 10,000 followers, because our book didn't get accepted, because we don't have the money to move to the apartment that we want. Guys, that's when it's time to reel it in and take a check on this. Katie said, yeah, she's experienced this back in 2008. Yeah, I think, Katie, that's actually, that's one of the ones I was thinking about, actually. I was in a big storm in 2008 as well. But I'm remembering one in the summer.
Yeah, I remember that.
Chris and I were in similar locations. And I mean, you guys want to talk, you guys think COVID was bad, not having toilet paper and bread? I mean, it was a whole week. It was a week of it. And honestly, I was so grateful for that. It was scary.
Yeah.
Because it was out of my norm. Even though I'm an outdoor survivalist. I'm taught to survive outdoors. But I had my dogs, my house, but it was so great because it taught me what it was like, 200 years ago. Oh, there's only so much I can do after dark now because I have these little electric candles, which they didn't have.
Mm-hmm.
I had so many candles, guys. I'm obsessed with candles. My candles were all burned down. I mean, they'd last me one night because I was burning them to light up my house.
Right.
That's a different reality. And so I love the Naked and Afraid show. Yeah, that's reality TV, but I love that show because, hey, Jackie, come here. I love the Naked and Afraid show because I believe that everybody should either participate in that show for 24 hours or they should watch it seriously and without judgment.
Right.
People watch that show. Oh, they're just stupid. Well, that was dumb to do. Why'd they do that? Why'd she pick the knife? Well, why'd they, sorry guys, but been there. You cannot know what it's like. If you have not done that, if you have not been out in the wilderness with no shoes and no clothes and no tools, or even clothes and no tools, I mean, that's big enough. They turn you out.
You don't need to be naked. I mean,
no,
that's vulnerable for sure. But
you don't need to be naked, and you certainly can have your shoes and your boots if you want.
Yeah.
But you walk out there with just the clothes on you and your hiking boots. I guarantee you're out there 3 hours at the very most, depending on where you are, and you're going to be like, oh shit, because your all day, every day becomes survival. And in my opinion, I hate to say that, people are going to hate me for this, but everybody needs a little dose of that. I think it should be part of our growing up curriculum.
Right.
Everybody has 10 to 14 days in the wilderness having to survive. I mean, really, I think it should be part of our education.
Yeah. I mean, it is amazing. I was giggling about thinking about that summer storm because it took like a week for them to clear our roads to where we could actually get out to the store. And when the electric company came, like my son was real little, so we had some, not Pop-Tarts, but they were like organic toaster pastries. And of course there's no toaster because there's no electric. So I'm out there with the propane grill, like grilling my Pop-Tarts. And the guy was making fun of me. And I'm like, man, after a week of eating cold, toaster pastries, I just wanted to have a warm one. like I know I'm eating processed food, but at the same time, like, this is not so bad for me, like I could live this way, like it's totally fine. Because I don't have an expectation of what it is that my life is supposed to be, and I know that I'm only going to experience that for a short period of time. I love how Eckhart Tolle talks about in the presence of now, I believe it is.
Power of now, yeah.
The power of now, thank you. That you cannot enhance your life because life is what you are, but you can enhance the circumstances and the way about you go about living life. And that discernment for me really helped open me up to some new ways of thinking, because we're conditioned, especially in the West here, to believe that the problem with the world, with the way things are, is us. And if we're always focused on the problem, we never find the collective solution to get past that. So by surrendering a little bit of our man-made laws, rules, and regulations, and widening our perspective of natural laws, we learn what unifies all things. What does a tree need? it needs food, it needs nourishment, it needs a safe environment, which means free of pests and funguses and bacteria that are going to help, that are going to limit its ability to grow in the way that it needs to. And we're no different. And so, to enjoy the life, the one that you're with is enjoying the life that you have, the experience of it, and nourishing your mind, nourishing your heart, nourishing your body, nourishing our true nature, our authentic self, allowing ourselves to be in authentic relationships and being vulnerable and sharing our fears, our insecurities, our hopes, our desires, all these different things. When we can do that openly, not making one more than the other. See, the thing is there is no more sacred land or people or teaching than anything else. It's all the same. The specialty comes by the ways that we want to identify it. So we say this way is better than that way because it's more in line with what we're currently comfortable right now. Going to a Sundance, going to an indigenous ceremony where they're singing and they're dancing was not much different than over in Bali. The words were different. Maybe the way they went about it was a little bit different. But the ceremony in itself is just as sacred as any other ceremony. And when we can come together and truly celebrate the experience that we're having with one another, we won't need to create special ceremonies to separate us, because the experience in itself will be a celebration. To truly wake up and enjoy living the life that you have, the job, all those different things, you have that choice. You could have a bad day, and if you hang on to that bad day, you could have a bad week. But the more you can surrender that bad experience, which probably only lasted a few minutes. Let's say you had an argument with your partner, maybe it goes on intensely for, a little while, I don't know, half hour, some people like to drag it out for a week, but again, the faster we can get back to ourselves, and this is how I want to be, this is how I want to feel, this is how I want to show up for myself and other people. The faster we can get back to that self-awareness, our own practice, not based on someone else's spiritual practice, not based on history, not based on what the Buddha or Krishna or Christ or any other enlightened being has to say. Even our spirit guides will drop hints for us so we can then take it. We can nurture it, we can love it, we can give it the essence, the energy, the efforts that we need to manifest it, not only for ourselves, but each other. That's when we get to heaven on earth. When all life is sacred, doesn't mean you stop eating. It doesn't mean that you still don't cause harm and have to consume things. That's part of our reality. It just means that you're appreciative and you're grateful and you don't take more than you need. Because why would you waste that sacredness? I'm reading a book on the family of Crazy Horse, because there was 3 of them. We know mostly about the third one in the Lakota tradition. But, the thing about our oral history or written history keeps us in the known. And only when we question it with curiosity, with compassion, because we're seeking understanding, can we free ourselves from our self-limited beliefs and behaviors. It's not about finding righteousness in pain, but accepting there's experiences in life that are painful so that you can transmute that through alchemy into pleasure, because then you get to appreciate the things that come easy, because those are the things that we mostly take for granted until they're gone, which are the people in our lives, which are the things in our lives that mean something to us, because we place the meaning on it. Usually, by the way we use it, the resources, the things that we enjoy doing, those are more meaningful than, a pair of socks, that are useful. But when our sock gets a hole in it, do we lose a day being upset over a hole in our sock? No, we either fix it or we throw it away. And that's the same thing with our relationships. That's the same thing with our health. Mentally, emotionally, physically, spiritually, is our relationships to ourselves as related to other people, other things, other life forms, Mother Earth. Because the reality is, us human beings are insects, the winged ones, the finned ones, the four-leggeds, the bacteria, all those things are birthed on this planet from our Mother Earth. Hey, Mark, thanks. Thanks, Paul.
Yeah, thank you, guys. I would like to, before we round up, I would like to, whether it's for those that are live with us now or those that are on the rebroadcast, I really, I want to take this to, maybe I hope I don't lose you guys out here. I may lose you out here. I want to take this to, what are you going to do next with this? What does that mean? What does that mean we do next? Where do you take this next? All this conversation is great, but, for those of you sitting there wondering, what does that mean now? What does that mean? You're listening to this and you probably have all sorts of ideas that you're generating and listening to this. And it's cold out here. Not a good choice. But you might have all these ideas. Okay, I'm going to do this. I'm remembering they said that, blah, 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 blah. But the real question is, where do you really start? Where do you get out of your head in just thinking about this and actually do something? And do you want to do something? I mean, a lot of what Chris talked about today was something that's completely foreign, that Westerners don't even believe in. He was talking about just taking time to just be and enjoy and be in awareness and not necessarily be doing something all the time. Americans don't believe in that. It's one of the reasons we got so many problems. Yes, I see we got so many problems. I said it that way on purpose. So, we need to think about these things. Are you guys just on here because you want to listen? And you can temporarily walk away feeling better, having ideas. You're going to add it to your story and you're going to keep doing what you're doing. Or are you at a place where you feel like, okay, there's more, or there's deeper, or there are these aspects of myself that I'm unhappy with? If you're unhappy, It's because you're disconnected from your authentic self, which is connected to source.
Mm-hmm.
That's it. If you're unhappy, it's because you are believing your thoughts, because happiness and unhappiness is only a mind thing. There's a difference between moods and experiences that are brain and mind based, which is isolated to your human self, and states of consciousness. You are joy, you are love, you are peace, you are fulfillment. That's it. You are. So if you're not experiencing those things, you want to go deeper. Yes, Katie, I can't wait to talk to you later. But if you, the thing is, guys, is that you can't do that by thinking about it. So the first thing has to be that awareness. If you are unhappy, dissatisfied, stressed out, have anxiety, you're depressed, you're overwhelmed, you're unhappy, you're lonely, all of that is ego. There's nothing wrong with ego. Ego is not bad, but all of that is isolated to brain and mind. Okay, that means it could be brain and body chemistry. Emotion is the mind and the body. So if you're feeling sad or depressed or lonely or upset, it's up here first.
Yep. So okay. Conscious reflection.
Yeah. So the real question is, are you going to do anything when you listen to these broadcasts? Are you sitting here passively? And what is the most powerful action you can take? Well, the most powerful action you can take is just take radical responsibility. That is a choice. I mean, my business is called My Powerful Choices simply because you claim your power as a human being by making choices. It is through the making of choices. And what we do is we do the opposite. Yes, Mark says you go back to the beginning of everything. Well, yeah, so go back to the authentic self. Most people don't even know who and what that is, and that's okay. You don't have to.
Well, actually, I think once you put a label on it, you move from an authentic self anyway. So, right.
It's true. It's true. But yeah,
you're on it all you want, but you know.
But as a human being, though, most people aren't just going to make that leap.
Right. Right.
So you have some sort of cognitive comprehension, and that's okay.
Mm-hmm.
But, you know, so what would I do? What would Chris and I do? Well, I mean, for me personally, all my clients have to get the power of now. I don't care if they read that book 5 minutes a day for 30 years. Eventually, something's going to get through because it's talking to your consciousness. So even if you don't feel like, oh, it's transforming my life, it's getting through your consciousness because that is consciousness speaking to your consciousness. So when you read that, you're stepping outside of your interactions you have with everyone else. Obviously, Chris and I have to use words. We have to use our prefrontal cortex and our cognition to communicate with you guys. But we can communicate concepts that you can connect to. And when you get off of here, what do you have to do? Well, the biggest thing is be aware. Take radical responsibility, and you have to start with awareness. You know? Get to a point where, like Chris described when he was watching that, like those commercials of, you know, of kids and animals. I do turn those off. I don't want to need those. I do my own animal rescue. But I have friends, and for someone like Chris, he knew he needed to watch that commercial because it was healing to him to bring something out and through. Mm-hmm. I'm aware enough to know what I don't need here. In that case, he knows what he does need. Are you a person that's aware of what and why within yourself? Or are you just a person that's like, oh, I don't like how that feels, so I'm turning it off?
Right.
Because for some people, maybe that's not a good idea. You know, and it's not, again, as Chris said, you're one thought deep and you're sucked back into the mind. So how do we overcome that? I'm going to give you the one-word answer and nobody's going to do it, but I'm going to say it anyway. Yes. See, Mark, yes.
Mm.
Surrender. Let's give a whole new meaning to the word surrender. It's not what Hollywood shows us it is. It's not this ego fight. You know, the thing that feeds the ego is not surrendering, right? It's resistance. So the opposite of resistance is surrender. What are you really surrendering to? Your ego. That's what you're surrendering to. Your thoughts. When you do that, you are cutting the strings that are allowing your mind to run your life. When you do that, you're opening up a space for your light of consciousness to come through, even if it's for a split second. So here are some hints and pointers I give my coaching clients, so I can only do it so much on here. If you find yourself confused, frustrated, depressed, sad, overwhelmed, overcritical, jealous, judging people, afraid, any of these negative emotions, or there's some contrasting ones that are more on the, boasting side, that's ego. Nothing wrong with that. But these are your pointers. Just step back and just observe those thoughts. Just watch the thoughts. Don't do anything with them. Don't feel like you have to do anything. Don't try to fix anything. Don't try to change anything. Just observe them. In your observing, when you're ready, when you're melting the layers away, your intuition will begin to glimmer through. And if you catch it within that first second it comes through, which may take you a few thousand times before you realize it, before your mind gets thinking, and believe me, the thought will follow right up on the intuition, right after. So you're probably going to hear the thought before you hear the intuition, which is why you miss the intuition. But if you're just surrendering and you're not resisting and trying to do anything about what you believe your reality is, this is where I say don't believe your thoughts. Have them, but don't believe them. When you observe them, what happens is you stop trying to control them. You're just surrendering and letting them be. This is allowing yourself to begin to practice being the observer behind your thoughts. And guess what? That's the eternal you. That's the you Chris and I are talking to you from. That's the reason Chris went to Bali to have this experience. Do you all have to travel to do that? No. That's part of his path. We can use the physical world to wiggle out of our mindset traps.
Mm-hmm.
But if you think you're free of it, you're not. You're not. If you think, oh, I'm waking up. Nope. Whatever it is you think, don't believe it.
Right.
And then people go, but where do I go then? I got to go somewhere. I got to think, no, you don't. No, you don't.
I'm hurt or I'm healed. Yes, you are.
There is presence.
Yeah.
There is a reality.
Yeah.
There's a reality beyond thought, guys. This is what we're getting at. Underneath all of this great conversation we have every week, there is a reality beyond thought.
Mm-hmm.
All of your problems start with thinking. And if you want your mind to be your tool instead of your master, you have to start peeling away, which is uncomfortable. It is not unicorns and fairies. That is not what waking up is.
No.
But it doesn't have to be painful. It doesn't have to be like, oh, agony either. But you do have to have the self-control to sit in surrender and stop reacting to your thoughts, which I guarantee you everybody's doing 24/7.
Well, and to accept the full range of our multidimensional being, a human, is to experience emotions, to experience thoughts, but not to be controlled by them. If you're being controlled through all that, you are not in control of your existence. If you're not in control of your existence, you will not attract, you will not manifest, you will whatever, because that is part of the mastery of self. And to be able to be in, why do I like to, like I said, I watched those commercials that made me cry. Why do I allow that into my life? Why do I allow myself the conscious awareness of what currently is going on in the world, whether it's war or famine or any of that kind of stuff, is so I can understand the full spectrum of this human life that I have. It's like going to the gym for your body.
Yes.
And understanding that the more challenging a circumstance, energetically, mentally, emotionally, physically, sexually, spiritually, financially, however you want to choose it, the more difficult it is to overcome, the more you're gonna empower yourself, enhance your self awareness, your self being in things. You know, it's like if anyone's had the opportunity to hike up a mountain or climb a mountain, it's not necessarily an easy task. But when you're on top of that summit, scared to death because you're up there and it's windy and it's all these things and you could fall and you can die, and a physical death, not a spiritual death, because you can never die truly spiritually in my view, but you know, a physical or be harmed or hurt or whatever. But when you're on top of that, man, the you know, that you get in life is indescribable to someone that has looked at it and goes, wow, that's really steep. I'm scared to do that. You can't explain it because they have no awareness of what that is. But once you've gotten to have that experience, you can relate. So sometimes going through painful things is necessary because it allows us to relate on a deeper level with other people that are having similar experiences. The same thing with joyful experiences. If no one's really truly felt joy in their life, you can't explain that to them. It's like trying to explain what peanut butter tastes like to somebody who's allergic to peanuts.
True.
I mean, you can use your imagination, you can be creative, but like you can't truly relate and on an energetic frequency basis without being able to have those commonalities that make up our human experience. And part of being vulnerable, part of being radically responsible for yourself and accountable, like we're always talking about, is saying, I went to the depths of my being. I hit my rock bottoms in these ways. My power was out for a week and I found out how much I could survive on how little. And oh my God, what was it like? I remember, you know, because back then we watched movies at night, right? And so the first night you're like, well, we got the laptop and it's got a battery charge so we can watch a movie. And then the next day, no electric, right? So then you're like,
I don't even think I got to do that.
Well, you know, I mean, like, now what? You know, I mean, I was at the airport yesterday in Doha, which is in the Middle East, and they had this smoking lounge. We were in there smoking, and I guess in certain airports they take your lighters, and so you know the people coming there were bumming lights and all that kind of stuff. So it gave you an opportunity to have a conversation, which was beautiful because a lot of times people don't do that; they just kind of look at each other and whatever. So we were having this conversation. One of the guys had an electric lighter. He was from India, and he's like, "They don't take these," and he was all stoked about, you know, still being able to, you know, light his own cigarette, not having to ask someone for, you know, fire. The guy that had his lighter taken from, you know, some airport in India, he said, said, yeah, but you know, and then that's just another thing to have to charge. So then you have your lighter, you have your watch, you have your cell phone, you have your tablet, you have your laptop. Oh my God, all these things. And he's like, I'm so lost without my phone. And I laughed and I was like, yeah, that's why I call them cell phones. And I was like, because they trap you. And you know, you know, like, you know, people are totally lost without.
Yeah.
And fun thing in Bali for me, I mean, I did check it, because, people communicate and stuff, but I didn't carry my cell phone with me. I carried my camera. And so if I wanted to take a photo of something, if I wanted to have a remembrance of something that I saw or something cool or beautiful or whatever that I wanted to share with other people, I was able to capture it. Thanks, Katie. But at the same time, I wasn't checking Facebook statuses. I wasn't checking my email. I was present to what was going on, where I was at. The environment is down there is, if you've ever been to a country like that, it's chaotic in a lot of ways. Like, they don't have speed limits. And that's pretty wild. But a lot of the roads are so narrow, and things that you can't go fast, because of just the way everything works out. Except for the darn mopeds. Those things are lethal. I almost got taken out. Rhonda got to see a divine intervention, where I froze. Like, I went to take a step. I took a step and I froze. And right as I froze, she's like, it was the weirdest thing. It was like time stop. Like, you hit an invisible wall and you just stopped. And right when you did, a moped went flying by. You didn't see it. You didn't look. You didn't. It just, you felt it.
Oh,
you just
definitely.
and the vendor across the road that we were walking towards, he was like, whoa, like, he was freaked out for me, and I was like, damn, that was close. Smiled and then went on about my day. But I mean, it was crazy because the mopeds were up on the sidewalks. They just went everywhere. And so it was a real thing that you had to be mindful of, because I'm not used to it. And that's why I would recommend anyone that goes there, hire a freaking driver. That was a big problem, was the tourists were on, mopeds and things, and they don't have.
The tourists were too. Oh my.
Yeah. So like, that was
that's worse. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, the ones that do it every day, I mean, I was unbelievable how calm they are. This is, I mean, they're just in the flow. This is what you do. I mean, we traveled.
Tell the tourists.
Yeah. And then the tourists are there, and, I mean, oh my goodness. We traveled to a place, I mean, and this is because there's like 5 million people on this little island of Bali. In the morning, because it's so hot, their hours kind of are a little different. So in the morning, it would take us like 40 minutes to get somewhere. But in the afternoon, it would take us like 4.5 hours to get back.
Wow.
Because of how bad the traffic is with the cars and the darn mopeds going. I mean, you'd be sitting there in traffic and mopeds would be just weaving in and out like Essen through all the cars that were stopped.
Why they have the mopeds. Yeah.
And that's why they all have mopeds, because they don't have to stop like the cars do to try to make the turns and all that stuff. They're just able to, buzz through everything, which is wild. So anyway, we're digressing, and the show's.
Why are you upstairs? Come on down.
So
I'm sorry, guys. Sorry, I've been looking for my dogs, and here Tom had them locked upstairs. I heard a little scratch. I guess they wanted to go up, and then sorry.
And absolutely, Mark. I mean, we all get to have these beautiful experiences, but we all have our own path, but it reflects each other's path. They look a little different because that's how we evolve.
Right.
If we all had the same, if we all lived by the same, this might come off wrong, and I don't mean to be sacrilegious or anything, but if we all lived by one religion, we all were born into, and we all had the same instructions, then we're no different than the machines that we've created to try to make our lives easier, but yet this helps destroy the natural fabric of our realities.
And yet, to make things even more complicated, we would still all have our own perspective and do it our own way.
Because that's a creative expression of consciousness.
And that has to be regardless. So,
right.
This reminds me, Chris, and I know that we've gone over some today, but I knew you'd come back with this new energy, because every time we go off and we have a trip, we have a vacation, or we're away and we come back, we're a new person. Mm-hmm. We really are. And, I think that people ask all the time, am I on my spiritual path? As a psychic medium, they're always asking me, am I on my spiritual path? Am I on my spiritual path? What do I need to be on my spiritual path? Yeah. And, again, one of the confines of the mind, or the expression of the confines of the mind, are the need to label and to understand. And, and I'm constantly saying to people, when I get on to do live readings, one of the first things I say is, you guys have to remember, you're here to want to connect with the worlds beyond this world. And you have to understand the reason you don't experience yourself interacting with them is because they're so different. And I don't like saying open your mind. I don't like that term. I think it's been misused for decades. But you really have to be open-minded about that conceptually. You have to understand that where I go and where your intuition goes to bring forth, I don't even want to say information, because information has to do with our cognitive mind, but to bring forth wisdom and knowing and what we call answers, or the right questions and guidance, means you are entering into a different reality. And just like with some languages, there are certain terms and concepts that are not translatable. You can't just translate the word letter to letter. It's the same thing. These are things that, is like Chris said before, that have to be experienced, that you can get a glimmer of conceptualizing. This is one reason I believe why so many people have NDEs. Now, see, I haven't had an NDE, but I don't need an NDE. Not everyone needs an NDE. I came with a cosmic memory. I go back and forth to the other side all the time. I'm aware of my soul on the other side already, and I tap into the senses that she has over there. Not everyone has that while they're here. Some people get that experience through going through a near-death experience. Some people don't need that. Right? So we reduce our lives to things like, well, why did they have an NDE and I didn't? I wouldn't have this or that, right? We don't need to have the same things, right? Here, guys, come here. You can come with me. We don't all need to have the same things. And so I think that, again, it's surrendering. It's not getting caught up in the ideas of the way you think. I'll take you out in a minute. It's not getting caught up in the ways and the ideas of the things you think things need to be. And here's the ego's formula 24/7. If things are going the way I think they should be going, to make it look like I'm getting what I want, then I'm peaceful and happy and all is well. Mm-hmm. If things are not going the way I think they need to go in order to get the outcome that I want, when and the way I think I should have it, then my life is terrible. Things are not going well and everything is bad. Okay. Neither of those is true. Sometimes things are working out for you the very best when you're not liking how they're happening. Sometimes when you think things are perfect, that's when you're heading down a slippery slope.
Yep.
So, we can, again, guys, what does this go back to? I know I keep doing this is because I want you guys to have a call to action every time you get off of here. What are you going to do about it? How are you going to take radical responsibility? Are you on here to feel temporarily better?
Awesome. If you are, and if you want to do more, then that's awesome too.
And
because everybody is where
right. Yeah. But I need to throw this out there, because don't think that if you're on here and you're just listening, I mean, you can sit idly for decades and do nothing. That is your prerogative. That is your choice. There's nothing wrong with that. But I'm speaking to those of you who maybe are under the illusion of, oh, I just have to do this and that, and then that's all I got to do. For those of you in that point, you need to be aware that if you're really wanting to create transformation and something new and different, you're going to have that next step is that radical responsibility. And the bottom line is that we're all growing and evolving all the time, regardless.
Mm-hmm.
And the question is, how much struggle and suffering are you going to have? How many times are you going to repeat lessons because they're repeated until learned? You know, that's why it's not a right or wrong choice. It's your choice. But if you keep coming to people like us and you're like, you know, this is terrible, I want this and that, or like people get on my readings, when is this going to happen? When is that going to happen? When is this going to be fixed? Okay, if you're really that desperate, I want you to be aware that you have choices you're unaware of. And that's what we're sharing with you here.
Mm-hmm.
If you want to just come and keep asking what's going to happen, what's going to happen, what's going to happen for temporary relief, go for it. Now, Chris, see, Mark, let's see. Hold on a second. C Mark says, I don't know if I'm on my path or not. I just walk. Okay. So, well, I guess that answers your question. I didn't even see that, honestly, before I started talking about this. I did not see that comment at all. So yes. So the answer, first of all, is I'm going to do this for everyone, even on the rebroadcast. So yes, you're always on your path.
Right.
You can't get off of your path. Right. Your life is your path.
And that's your spiritual path, whether you think it is or not. That's the funny thing about it.
Right.
You're going to evolve no matter what.
So the thing that people, and I want to clear up a misunderstanding too. The thing I think people get confused with, I think, and because I did this when I was younger as well, I think when we're out of alignment sometimes, and that just means we're functioning, which most of us are most of the time, functioning at a lower frequency than really aligning our intuition, our consciousness, our intellectual mind, our choices. When those things are out of alignment, it makes us feel like we're off our path. Or another misunderstanding is when we're maybe in alignment, but things are really tough, we feel like we're out of our path. If we've been having a hard time for a long time, or we don't seem to be getting answers, or we're feeling stuck, we interpret that as meaning we're off our path. So please understand that I think this was something that was started about 50 years ago. I think when the New Age movement began, that started to be a phrase that then we gave meaning to. Mm-hmm. But none of those feelings are confused for being off your path, but just know you can never be off your path. Right. The real question to ask yourself is, am I aligned in a way that I can work through or rise above these experiences that I'm not enjoying? What do I need to learn right now to move out of this phase? That's a more powerful question, because really you're just only ever at a stopping point. And if you find these habits and you're feeling stuck and you're finding these patterns you don't like, all it means is that as a human, you're making the same choices over and over that you're unaware of. It means that you're not living from the awareness behind your thoughts. You're living from your egoic mind. You're believing your thoughts, and you have habits and repetition in your choices and behavior that are creating a reality that makes you feel stuck. That's all that means. So please keep that very distinct clarity there, and know that everything is always working out for you, even when it seems like it's not, because life is going to keep your higher self, your spirit team, whoever, they're going to keep you in a place where, okay, this is what you need to learn to go on to the next thing. Mm-hmm. So if you feel stuck, you haven't learned it. You haven't made the choices yet. You haven't used your free will. You haven't taken radical responsibility. And even if you think you have, it's because you're in here. Mm-hmm. And that's exactly what Chris and I try to show you, try to point to, as you hear all the great teachers, and it's true.
Right. This is signposts.
We can just point you, mm-hmm. as Eckhart Tolle says, in the direction, and the direction is always radical responsibility and awareness. That means aware of what you're not yet aware of. Right? The awareness behind your thoughts. Let's see. I wanted to glow in the dark. Yeah, well, unicorns are real. I have one. My horse is one. But They're real, but they're in other dimensions, which you can see also when you get back to that observer behind your thoughts.
Right.
You don't ever want off your path. Well, you don't have to ever worry about that. You never will be. There's no way. Yeah, you can never get off your path, guys. Sorry. Once you were handed that free will from source, that is your eternal blessing and gift. And you can do whatever you want with it. And you have all eternity to do it. And it gives me chills to say it. What greater gift than that? I mean, it feels so cliche, doesn't it, Chris, to say, but truly, guys, God truly is love. Mm-hmm. I mean, one of my greatest experiences, I won't go into now, but it was that golden light coming through the wall while I was dancing as a kid. And there are no words. I mean, you have to experience it for yourself. You know, if someone were to ask me now, do you believe in God? Which I don't like using that term. What a limiting term. Yes. Was this golden light absolutely conscious? Absolutely. Aware of me? Yes. Full, complete conversation without the need for me to hear auditorily in even a better sense of hearing than we can hear. Changed my life forever at the age of 13. I was never the same. Did I know that and believe in all that before? Absolutely. Did I remember it from the other side? Yes. But to have that physical experience here, knowing no matter what, everything is always okay. Everything is always perfect as it should be. And we have the free will in this reality and beyond to always choose to stray and experience from that when we want to. That's our choice, though. That unconditional love is always there. And that's part of our golden thread. And we can never get off of that. See, that light that came through that wall, you guys hear some people say silver thread. It's a golden thread connection you have. But it was huge. I mean, it came in, it encompassed the whole house eventually. But that was my connection, my golden thread connection. We say, oh, it's a fine thread. But in reality, it's light. It's literally like, it's like the ultimate source's link to you. And even in your incarnation, it's connected to you and it expands and contracts. It's light energy. That's what it is. Anyway, and when you pass away from this life and it's cut from that physical form, it's still yours. It's still your soul connection. Right. You always have that. Yes, they were great today. Yes, we are light. I want to thank Chris for bringing back all of his wisdom. Well, not all of his, a little bit of wisdom he was able to share with us from his experience. I can only imagine how amazing that was.
Yeah. It's, I wish I pray that everybody gets the opportunity to step outside of themselves and see life from other perspectives. Because it really does show you how blessed you are as a creative being, human, and the information, information that we get is the light of creative expression that allows us to move forward towards the things that we think we want, so we can experience the duality of not getting it. Because once we're okay with not getting it, that means you deserve to have it, because you will appreciate what you have. And with that, I'm done for the day. Yeah, because we could go on all day about all this fun stuff. Yeah, and as we mentioned today, the attention span, so they see the time mark that it's long and people won't even watch. So, which is okay, because that's where they are in their journey. But being aware of that, then we can try to align with what are those observations and try to play within that frequency to get better result, to get the results that we desire with less effort.
And it's hard. I mean, it's hard because when you're speaking from experience and you are excited about, again, it's a human emotion, but you're excited about sharing this. And, this is one way also, though, in which doing our show authentically, not just trying to entertain, it weeds out the people that really aren't, the people that are really going to be very interested and dedicated, and they're at this point in their evolution. It really sort of filters that out, so that we have this beautiful collection of people with matching frequencies.
Yeah.
So I want to thank you all for tuning in. Those of you that join us on the rebroadcast, C. Mark and Natalie and Katie Newkirk. Thank you guys for commenting and saying hello.
And Paul.
What?
And Paul, I think.
Oh, Paul. Yes. I knew there was someone else. I was scrolling up.
Yeah.
I missed him though. I want to thank you guys for tuning in. We both have all sorts of things coming up. We're working on some things for you guys. And you can make sure, if you want to follow our YouTube pages, that you subscribe, because that will allow you to comment. If you guys subscribe, that will allow you to comment. And we're going to be trying to move a lot of things there, to do a lot over there. For me now, just because I see how fragile my Facebook accounts may be. But I've been wanting to do that for a while anyway. But there's different things we can do on Facebook than we can do on YouTube. So it makes for a nice combination. So please join us both places, and next week again at the same time.
Sounds good. Thanks again. Much love and gratitude for all that you are, and all that you choose to be. So thanks so much, and we'll see you next week.
Thank you all. Bye.